Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and there's one comment that seems to pop up on every single guitar review that I do for the most part, and it is people requesting that I do guitars that are a little bit more on the budget side, as well as guitars that are available to purchase new in the United States without much effort, as opposed to a lot of the guitars I import from Japan directly. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be checking out the Squier 40th Anniversary Vintage Edition Telecaster. Now, there are a few budget guitars that we'll be reviewing in the coming weeks. However, I wanted to start with the Squier because right now it is on sale for under $400 at Guitar Center. So this would be a good time, if this ends up being a really good guitar, for me to give it a good recommendation if it ends up being the case. And if that is the case, or you do like this guitar regardless of what I say, you want to support the channel, you can use the affiliate links down below and have yourself a deal without spending anything extra. We're going to start off by putting this guitar on the bench, taking a close look, talking about what makes it a little bit different than a regular classic vibe, and then giving it a playthrough demonstration. So let's get started. The 40th Anniversary Squiers have a lot in common with the regular production line classic vibes. The Iota bodies, the pickups are the exact same. However, there are some differences between them that I'd like to highlight, and I'd actually like to give Fender a lot of credit on the design choices they made with this, because this looks awesome in person. Starting with the pickguard, believe it or not. The black anodized pickguard looks absolutely killer in the room. I'm a big fan of that. Whether or not you're gonna love these kind of aged hardware bits and then the aged chrome pickguard cover, that's gonna be up for taste. I think it kind of works with the rest of the aesthetic, as well as the double bound body, which I am always a huge fan of on Telecasters. And then there's the finish itself that's different. Typically you're just getting a poly finish. On this one you're getting a satin Dakota red finish. One thing that I did notice about this guitar that I didn't notice until I put it on this bench right now to film this, there are several little dimples in the finish. Now, they're not dings or divots or dents or anything like that, but it appears like there's some small little debris or particles that might have been in the air while they were spraying this that got underneath. But overall, it's a really clean guitar, and especially considering that this is not a very expensive guitar, I'm totally okay with all of that. The electronics are bog standard for a Telecaster. You have traditional three-way toggle, you have volume, tone, and these pickups are the same ones that come in the classic vibes, finishing it off with 3 steel saddles. Now onto the back of the guitar, everything is just straight up traditional Telecaster, minus this neck plate, which is also aged to match the hardware on the front that has the 40th anniversary logo on it. And now we're on to my favorite part of this guitar, and that is the neck itself. This neck feels amazing to play in the hands, especially at the price point. It's got a satin urethane finish on it that is really smooth. The fret edges on this particular guitar are not bad, especially considering the price point. Nothing too sharp that would actually cause any discomfort while playing. As far as the rest of the specs of the neck go, you have a bone nut, 9.5-inch radius, and these frets are narrow tall. And staying in line with the body here, there appears to be some sort of hair or other small speck that got underneath the finish while they were spraying it. And finally, at the headstock, not a whole lot to go over here. You have a string tree, you have the unique logo to this series of guitars, and finally 6 non-locking vintage style tuners that are also aged to match the rest of the hardware on this guitar. So let's hear what it sounds like. Now, the very first thing that I noticed about this guitar, the second I took it out of the box and held it, was this is kind of heavy for a Telecaster. Coming in at just around 8.5 pounds, funny enough, it weighs more than a non-weight relieved Gibson Les Paul Greenie does, and that's just not kind of what I picture when you're talking about Tellies. However, if weight really does matter to you, I would recommend trying one of these out in person in a store if you can, to make sure that you're not getting something that's excessively heavy, because believe it or not, after doing some research on this to see if this was the norm as far as the weight goes, I found a few examples that weighed over 9.5 pounds. So just something that's food for thought. If you're buying blind and the weight really makes a big difference to you, try to see if it can be provided to you, or ideally try it in person for yourself. But as far as the playability and the sounds of this guitar go, that's the important stuff. The neck feels great. I can't lie, I'm very surprised. It feels amazing. And one thing that I don't always love about the classic vibes, the build is always pretty solid on them, just like this one, but I don't like it when the neck is so glossy. This having the satin finish on it, it is an absolute joy to play it. All I had to do setup wise to get this thing really in my wheelhouse was lower the action a tiny little bit and adjust the intonation, and I was off to the races. I felt right at home as a typical Telecaster player. But as far as the sound of this instrument goes, it went pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to go. The bridge pickup is absolutely serviceable as is. Middle position, say the same exact thing. The neck pickup, a little muddy, a little dark, and I know that Telecasters in general aren't known for having a super lively neck pickup, but this one, it kind of leaves a little bit to be desired. One thing that you can do, regardless of what kind of Telecaster you do have, a little trick at home before you just chuck the pickups out the window here, you can try to have the treble side be a little bit higher than the bass side, and that might do you a little bit of good. However, when it comes to the one thing that I don't really love on this guitar in regards to electronics, it's the actual volume and the tone controls. I shot a few short examples showing you what I'm talking about here. Once you start to roll off the volume, it goes from kind of, it's all the way there, and then all the way off. You see what I mean there? All of the high end kind of goes immediately once you hit a certain point. It's not a smooth taper like you would find with a more expensive guitar. However, I have some very good news for you if that bothers you and you're interested in this guitar or another guitar like it. It's very easy and inexpensive fix. Just throw in some CTS or some Bournes pots and you're all good to go. Even if you wanted to just use the stock pickups, they're serviceable. And then, you know, $6 a pot, you do it on your own, easy job. And while you're in there, I would recommend also throwing in a little bit better of a three-way selector switch. This one is serviceable, but it does feel a little bit on the flimsy side of things. All inexpensive things that you could do to really improve this guitar and get more out of the pickups that are already in it, because as I said, I thought the bridge pickup was more than good enough as is. So do I think that this guitar is worth the sale price of $389.99? I have to say, I was a little skeptical, and I'm not always having the best time with Fender guitars, but credit where credit is due. I am very, very impressed with this guitar, and I would absolutely recommend it for that price range. There's not much for me to complain about with this specific model. The only issues that I had were cosmetic, little dimples here in the finish and the weird little hair that was stuck underneath the satin finish on the neck. But as far as the important stuff goes, fretwork on it is actually pretty solid. The nut was filed to a really competent level, and it plays great, sounds good enough, and the things that I would want to upgrade on this guitar are relatively inexpensive to do so. It wouldn't take me more than 5 or 10 minutes. So if you found this useful, helpful, or entertaining, I encourage you to leave a like on this video. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this guitar, or if you have one, your thoughts on yours. But outside of that, thank you for watching. I hope you tell somebody in your life that you love that you do love them, and you play your guitar and get off the internet for a little bit. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.